Okay, so I've updated practical with weekly exercise homework, right? I got it already, right? So we have some week ones, couple of packet tracer that you need to do for as homework. But this week also, right? We have 3 packet tracer for homework, yeah? Right? So this basically to put in practice our theory, lah, right? For example, week two, remember yesterday we did point-to-point single area OSPF version 2 config, and then we look at the election of DR and BDR, and also we look at modification of single area OSPF version 2, right? So this, okay, if you're able to finish your lab during the practical session, can continue with the packet tracer. If not, then the packet tracer are your weekly exercise, lah, right? Okay, so today's practical is on configuring single area OSPF version 2. Okay, so I've already uploaded. You can download that, right? Right. So just have a look at our course plan. Week 2 is this, yeah. Configure single area OSPF version 2, which is this one, huh? Right? So I'm going to discuss a little bit about the today's practical, and after that I'll let you to do it lah. Yeah. Right. So the topology. Have a look at the topology first. As you can see, we have 2 routers. Okay. Although we have these switches in the middle, they are part of the same network. Right. Still the same network. As you can see, still the same network. So this still counts as a point-to-point. Right? It's still count as a point-to-point OSPF. Okay, it's different from multi-access. Multi-access, basically you have more than two routers, right? So that means there should be another router connected to either switch 1 or switch 2. Then you're considering multi-access. But here we have only 2 routers, right? So point-to-point. Okay. So that's the topology. So also notice that this interface here, LO1 on the router 1 and 2, actually it represents loopback. As we learned yesterday, loopback is a virtual interface on the router. Okay, so you can see here at the addressing table, R1 has loopback 1, R2 also have loopback 1, and they're both given addresses. Okay, so take note for the topology, because you will have to create the topology from scratch, yeah, from scratch. So what you can do when you're doing this, just select the model number. So we try to be as consistent with the packet tracer as possible with this lab, right? And you can basically do that by selecting the correct model, okay, to create or recreate this topology. Because after you create the topology here, then we can go into configure. All right. So our objective for this lab this week is divided into 3 parts. First, you need to build the network itself, drag and drop using packet tracer, and then configure basic device settings. So configuring basic device settings, we have already covered before. So you might find that the instructions is a bit lacking, not in detail, right? So what you need to do is look back through your notes, your previous notes, okay, on the actual commands to use to configure basic settings, right? Now, part 2 is where we apply what we have learned in the lecture yesterday, which is to configure and then verify single area OSPF version 2. Okay, right? And then part 3 is to optimize and verify. Optimize simply means you do modification, right? And then verify your modification, right? So this is the background scenario. I'll let you to read that yourself. Okay. Now, this one note is only actually applicable for real hardware. Recall that for real hardware, there might be prior config from students that was still kept inside the devices. So that's why you need to prepare before you do the real lab to prepare by erasing whatever is inside so that you start with a blank slate. But for packet tracer, we have no such problems lah, because if you create from scratch, when you drag and drop, usually the devices are already uh, in a factory default setting, right? Okay, so cable-wise, you still use straight through, no problem, just a normal Ethernet straight through cable, right? So you can use that. Right, so as you see, the instructions step by step that is given to you, you follow step by step. Don't miss any step. Um, complete the step before you go to the next step, right? Right. So, like for example, because it's basic settings, it's assumed that you already know the commands to do that. So basically, uh, uh, just as an example, look at step 2A, assign a device name to each router. So you know, the device name is basically the host name of the device. So for the router, recall that to set the host name is to go to global configuration, configure terminal, and then um, using the command host name and using the name given in the topology. So for example, if for router, right, you go inside iOS for router 1, and do the configuration, host name R1. Okay, and then do the same for all the other devices. S1 for first switch, S2 for second switch, and R2 for the second router. So, okay, example. Then after you finish that, go to the next, disable DNS lookup, and so on and so forth. These are all basic configuration. Okay, you have to do for router and switch. That means both the routers and both the switches. Yeah, right. So follow this, and then you're done with part 1. Okay. So part 2 is where we are now configuring our SPF version 2. Right. So if you want to know what is the command that is needed to do all this configuration is already shared with you during our lecture. So go back to our lecture slides, right? For example, configure interface is basic command. Basically, you go into iOS, configure configure terminal, and then select the interface. So for example, this interface G001 for R1, then you can provide the IPv4 address and including the subnet mask for it. Okay, then you go for R2 because switch and switch 2 don't have IP address for their port. So basically, you're gonna do for R1 and R2. Okay, don't forget the virtual or loopback interface. Okay, for both. So for router, you have 2 interfaces that you need to set, similar to R2, right? So after you configure all the interface addresses, then we want the process ID, right? OSPF process ID. Remember that yesterday? Here, just follow the instruction. What is the process ID to use? And then for router ID, the first router is 1111, second router 2222, right? And then just follow the instructions here. Again, do refer to your slides, okay, for the correct iOS commands, right? So you download for yourself this Word document. Therefore, you can type in your answer. Again, I remind, if you type in your answer, you can change your font to maybe blue color, okay, blue color, so that easily for you to identify your own answer. Right? Take time when you see this question like this to think about the answer and then provide your answer. Right? And then just follow instruction. And then once you finish part 2, proceed to part 3. Right? Optimize single area or SPF configuration. So step 1 is implementing various optimization. So example here, priority to 50. Remember that these are manual configuration that you can do, right, to the router in terms of OSPF. So to basically bias the elective or election, okay, especially for DR and BDR, right? So you can see we're changing priority, we're changing the hello timer, right? Okay, we are setting that, right? All the commands again is available in your slides, yeah. And then you just follow through the step by step, A, B, C, do all the required configuration. Okay, and here is where you use the tools for verification or troubleshooting. Okay, now typing show IP OSPF. Take note, you can, while you're doing this, look at your lecture notes. You can see the highlighted yellow color, right? So see whether when you type this inside the iOS, when it's showing you the information, right? Try to find the highlighted yellow in your lecture notes and see the configuration as shown in the packet tracer. Okay. Again, do step by step, A, B, C, D, answer the question, right? And when you're done with that, that's it. You're finished with this lab. All right. Now, uh, do it at your own pace. And the most important thing is that at every step, you understand and then try to relate, okay, what you have been looking at yesterday in our lecture. Try to relate that to the configuration that you're doing, right? There are no new commands here. All are from our lecture yesterday. So it will help not only for your practical, but it will also help your understanding on the materials we covered yesterday, because now you're implementing it and you can actually see what's happening in the packet tracer. All right. Any questions for today's lab?
So where to submit?
I will open up the submission. Thank
Oh,
you for
okay.
asking that. Yeah. Any other question?
No.
No, huh?
No.
Para, no. Kelvin, how about you, Kelvin? Any questions?
No, no, no.
Oh, no. Okay. So, I saw your message. Thank you. All right. So I'll be monitoring your our meet here. Right. So if you have any question, please raise up your hand so audibly I can hear, be alerted, and then type your message, or you can just unmute and then ask me question directly. All right. Later I'll check in, right? See where your progress, how your progress is. If you finish, let me know. Okay. You may take a brief rest, maybe a few minutes, and then maybe you want to try to attempt the homework lah, if you finish before our session complete today, right? Okay, so I let you go on to do your lab. Okay, let me know if you have any question. Yeah, I'll be monitoring. Okay.